Chapter 3: The Problem of Good and Evil. Good and Evil. Thus far we have dealt with the theory of the Kabbalah in its exoteric, philosophical, and cosmological forms. Now we shall enter more and more deeply into its esoteric spirit. We shall meet with many contradictions, for the Kabbalah is full of gropings in opposite directions, yet in the end, for the greater part, they cancel each other out, leaving to the searcher after truth a clear illuminating picture. We start with the archetypal. The world is an idea, a thought, a mathematical conception such as space, which contains all things. To this idea we add a creative impulse, and the world is endowed with a will to unfold itself, and we enter the sphere of time, of thought in extension. From this unfolding emerges form, geometricity, or a multiplication of spaces, shadows of things to be. So far there is no materiality, only mathematics, numbers, and letters, symbols, of shapes which are still dreaming. Lastly, in these forms movement is born and they become what we call substantial, then only do we enter the physical world of action, of materialized thought. Movement presupposes a working outwards from a center, or a working inwards from a circumference, a breathing in and out. In both there is a starting point and a beyond the starting point, a duality which presupposes a choice between at least two directions, the value of each differing according to the circumstances which surround each at any given time. Consequently in the intellectual sphere there must always be a right and a wrong path of action, in the moral sphere a good and a bad path, and in the physical sphere one which gains or loses, assists, or resists. These three series of opposite but, in reality, complementary principles have ever since the beginnings of human thought perplexed the mind of man, and none more so than the second, which has revolved round the problem of good and evil. Deeply and searchingly has the Kabbalist meditated upon this problem, until wisdom revealed to him that the world of action is fashioned of two distinct yet inseparable elements, the positive life-giving principle which reveals itself as energy, and the negative death-giving principle which reveals itself as inertia. To him the first is spiritual and the second material. The one he symbolizes by the hosts of angels and the other by the evil spirits of the Qliphoth. Isaac Meyer explains this very clearly when he writes, "The Kabbalah does not recognize in the good and evil, two independent, automatic, opposing powers, but both are, according to it, under the power of the supreme absolute deity. It asserts that the evil springs out of the good, and only originated from a diversion of the latter. Evil exists, for God's own wise purpose, by the sufferance of the Absolute One, who gives us the blighting cold, frost, and night, and also the beneficent and blessed daylight, warmth, and sunshine. Man therefore partakes of two regions, that of the external, visible, matter world, that of evil and darkness, and that of the internal spiritual higher world, that of goodness and light. The German philosopher Hegel holds that a thing can only exist through its opposite, that the thing and its opposite must arise together, and that eternally, as the complements of a unity, white is not without black, nor black without white, good is not without, nor is evil without good. This is the doctrine of the Sefer Ditzimutha and the Sefer Yetzirah. At the very beginning of the life germ, dissolution and death oppose its vitality and endeavor to destroy it, and the whole existence of man in this world is a continual struggle to secret wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 37. Preserve his vitality. Isaiah says, in his magnificent language, I am YHVH, and there is none else, there is not any Elohim besides me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun, and from the west, that there is none beside me. I am YHVH, and there is none else. I from light create darkness, I make safety and I create misfortune, I YHVH do all these things. 1 Isaiah's words are pure Kabbalah. For instance in the Zohar we read, observe, he said, that the Holy One, blessed be he, made a right and a left for the ruling of the world. The one is called good, and the other evil, and he made man to be a combination of the two. 2 And again, when the Holy One, blessed be he, created the world, he created it by means of the letters of the Torah, all the letters of the alphabet having presented themselves before him until finally the letter Beth was chosen for the starting point. But when it came to the turn of the Taith and the Resh to present themselves together, the Taith refused to take its place, so God chid it, saying, 0 Taith, Taith, why, having come up, art thou loath to take thy place? It replied, seeing that thou hast placed me at the head of Tob, good, how can I associate with the Resh, the initial of Ra, evil? God thereupon said to it, go to thy place, as thou hast need of the Resh. For man, whom I am about to create, will be composed of you both, but thou wilt be on his right whilst the other will be on his left. 3 In the book of Genesis this duality in man is hidden in the words, let us make man in our image, that is in light, after our likeness, simulacrum or shadow, that is in darkness, which is the garment of light. The purpose of evil is to stimulate goodness. The Holy One inflicts suffering on the righteous in this world in order that they may merit the world to come. But he who is weak of soul and strong of body is hated of God. It is because God has no pleasure in him that he inflicts no pain upon him in this world, but permits his life to flow smoothly along with ease and comfort, in that for any virtuous act he may perform he receives his reward in this world, so that no portion should be left him in the next world. 4 Again, all the acts of the Almighty are in accordance with justice, and his purpose is to purify that soul from the scum that adheres to it in this world, so as to bring it into the world to come. 5 Here, mildly though it may be, we are introduced to the pernicious doctrine of Manichaeism, which is still further accentuated in the following quotation, every man has a foretaste of death during the night, because the holy soul then leaves him, and the unclean spirit rests on the body and makes it unclean. When, however, the soul returns to the body, the pollution disappears, save from the man's hands, which retain it and thus remain unclean. Hence a man should not pass his hands over his eyes before washing them. The open eye symbolizes kether. When he has washed them, however, he becomes sanctified and is called holy. For this sanctification 2 vessels are required, one held above and the other placed beneath, so that he may be sanctified by the water poured on his hands from the vessel above. The lower vessel, then, is the vessel of uncleanness, whilst the upper vessel is a medium of sanctification. 6. Between these opposites of good and evil is placed the free will of man, which establishes secret wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 38. Harmony between them, and by which man exercises the divine power of judgment. Man is, therefore, a living representative of the tree of life, or conversely the tree of life is a pictorial representation of man. To the tree of life each sephirah is both good and evil, good in its relation to the sephirah immediately above it, and evil in its relation to the sephirah immediately below it. In the Sefer Yetzirah we read the ineffable Sephiroth. They are the infinity of the beginning and the infinity of the end, the infinity of the good and the infinity of the evil. 7 and again, 22 basal letters, they are placed together in a ring, as a wall with 231 gates. The ring may be put in rotation forwards or backwards, and its token is this: nothing excels no equals on, equals pleasure, in good, and nothing excels own equals ngo, equals plague, in evil. 8 in man good and evil represent the pillars of mercy and severity, or justice, whilst free will represents the central pillar of mildness. This mystery of good, will, and evil is the foundation of the symbolical Temple of Solomon. Meyer writes, the widow's son, Hiram Abiff of Tyre, cast for the Kabbalistic temple of King Solomon 2 high pillars or pylons of bronze. Their capitals were pomegranates and lily work. The lily, most likely the lotus, an emblem of life, white or male, on the right side; the pomegranate, the emblem of fecundity and plasticity, red or female, on the left side. The first was called Yakin, the latter Boaz. These columns represented understanding, Bina, H, and wisdom, Hakama, V, and between them was the temple of Kether, Y, the Father. Here we see symbols of the former, the harmony, and the to be formed. All energy must have resistance, all light must have darkness, all projecture, or emanation, a hollow or excavation to receive efflux. Affirmation supposes a negation. If the first androgyne had not been separated into male and female, the result would have been entire sterility, as was the result as to the 7 kings of Edom described in Genesis and the Kabbalah, and the balance not existing, the forms did not and could not exist, and the emanation of the existences could not proceed and be manifest. 9 Sympathy and antipathy governed by harmony is the secret not only of the spiritual but of the moral and physical worlds. The letters Od, He, and Va are their symbols, and together they form YHV, Gnostiklau, the ineffable name. This symbolism is universal because it is universally true. In the zodiac, Scorpio, male, and Virgo, female, are united by Libra, the balance. The 3 divine essentials are necessity and liberty linked together by harmony. Truth cannot exist without doubt, hope without fear, life without death, and so we find that, whatever the attempted explanation is, good and evil are necessary one to the other, just as are the centripetal and centrifugal forces of the heavenly bodies. Everywhere are they to be found except in the Absolute, where all comes to rest in nothingness. In this duality of good and evil the danger is that the uninitiated see 2 separate unities. They see good as God and evil as Satan. Consequently they love the one and hate the other, and so establish a disunity within and among themselves. This is the foundation of Manichaeism. They cannot see, as the Mishnah says, that God has placed in all things one to oppose the other, and that good purifies evil and evil purifies good. 10. This is the essential ignorance which separates Christianity from Judaism, for to the Christians salvation consists in the conquest of evil, that is, in its separation from the good. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 39. The evolution of Satan. The personification of evil in the form of Satan as the god of evil is the heresy which separates Christianity from Judaism. Consequently, in order to understand what this heresy entails, it is of vital importance to inquire into the nature of the Hebrew Samel, the genius of the Yetziratic world, the world of angels, that is of intelligences. This task is a highly complex one, for it is wrapped up in the principle of necessity, because outside the nothing, deity is not a free agent. As we have seen in the last chapter, Adam Kadmon, that is deity in the form of the archetypal man, the great seal, and consequently the great mystery, by a process of inversion, that is of fall or reflection, becomes Metatron in the Braitic world, and then Metatron by a similar process becomes Samel in the Yetziratic world. In this world Samel's clouds of angels are the horses of Tetragrammaton which bring YHVH into Egypt, that is into the Asiatic world, for Egypt typifies darkness. His chariot is the Merkaba, throne of magic, Tetragrammaton is the charioteer, and as his 2 horses, 2 categories of angels, typify good and evil, the white and the black or the white and the red, Tetragrammaton himself represents the fall of Yetziratic harmony. In fact, the symbolism here describes the descent of the tree of life into Asiya, where it is reversed and changed from harmony into discord, that is into activity. Why should this descent take place? The answer is, of necessity. Tetragrammaton must descend, because only by descending can he complete the cycle of emanations and so ultimately, through a reversed process of emanation, reinstate the nothingness of the ion. As we have shown, the first fall is from the Ansof to Adam Kadmon, the second from Adam Kadmon to Metatron, the third from Metatron to Samel, and the fourth from the angelic Samel to his demoniacal counterpart, For we are told that life in the present dispensation is cut short through the influence of the evil serpent, whose dominion is symbolized by the darkened moon. 11. The mention of the evil serpent presupposes the existence of a good serpent, the serpent of Yetzirah. To simplify this problem, it is necessary to enter more deeply into the idea of the fall. Samael of necessity revolts against deity, as symbolized by Metatron, and of necessity he is cast out of heaven, that is out of the Yetziratic world. In the Asiatic world, the world of matter, in order to redeem himself, of necessity he has to tempt the earthly Adam. His task there is to cause death, that is to reverse the life process, as the Zohar says, the end of all flesh has come before me Samael, for he, as the evil serpent, takes away the souls of all flesh. 12. That is he liberates them from matter. He is called the angel of venom, of poison, of death, for Sam means poison and El means angel. His number is 131, that is Trinity set between two unities, the whole adding up to 5, the microcosm. His world is now the Yetziratic world reversed, that is to say Asaya is the simulacrum, shadow, or image, of Yetzirah. Its three supernal Sephiroth are Tohu, the formless, Bohu, the void, and Chshk, darkness. Its 7 lower Sephiroth are 7 hells. Each of these 10 infernal Sephiroth is inhabited by a host of demons, of which the first 2 orders are without form, the third is of darkness, and the remaining 7 represent all human vices, activities. These 7 infernal halls or hells are subdivided into endless compartments, so as to afford a separate chamber of torture for every species of sin. The prince of this region of darkness is called Satan in the Bible. He is the same evil spirit, Satan, the serpent, who seduced Eve. 13. We are also told that the 10 Sephiroth of Atziluth have scintillated and brought forth the 10 Sephiroth of Bria, and from the energy of these 10 of Bria sparkled forth the scintillations of the world Yetzirah, and through these the 10 Sephiroth of the world Asaya were sealed. 14. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 40. These are the seals of St. John's Apocalypse. Thus it is disclosed to us that the god of Asaya is the reversed Samael of Yetzirah, who is the reversed Metatron of Bria, who is the reversed Adam Kadmon of Atziluth. In brief, Samael in Asaya is the reversed Adam Kadmon 3 times removed. He is the dark shadow of the manifestation of the great androgyne of good. 15. He is Metatron in an active form, just as when in Yetzirah he is Metatron in a passive form, the serpent above and the serpent below. He is tetragrammaton reversed, and this was grasped by Picus de Mirandula when he wrote in his Kabbalistic conclusions. The letters of the name of the evil demon who is the prince of this world are the same as those of the name of God, tetragrammaton, and he who knows how to effect their transposition can extract one from the other. 16. In brief, as the sorcerers were wont to proclaim, Daemon est Deus in versus. Like Adam Kadmon, the evil Samael is androgynous, for his female companion, or counterpart, is Esheth Znunam, Asht 17 Znvnim, the harlot, or woman of whoredom, also called Lilith, which name signifies night. Samael is the active principle, Lilith the passive. In union they formulate the Antichrist, anti-logos, or anti-word, known under the name of Haya 18 the beast, 19 the numerical value of which is 25, that is 1 unit less than the numerical value of tetragrammaton, which is 26. 1 is the numerical value of Aleph, A, hence in Omar Khayyam we read, a hair perhaps divides the false and true, yes, and a single Aleph were the clue could you but find it to the treasure house, and peradventure to the master too. This mystery is solved as follows. Aleph is composed of 2 Odin and a crossbar which is of A. It represents the world above separated from the world below by the vital force. Its value is consequently 10 plus 6 plus 10 equals 26, and 26 is the numerical value of tetragrammaton. Its symbols are also the swastika, philphot, or gammadion. See plate 6 on page 42. The redemption from satanic rule can only be attained by seeing God as he really is and not as he is in his reflection, for as Eliphaz Levi writes, according to the Kabbalists, the true name of Satan is that of Jehovah reversed, for Satan is not a black god but the negation of the deity. He is the personification of atheism and idolatry. The devil is not a personality for initiates, but a force created with a good object. Though it can be applied to evil, it is really the instrument of liberty. 20. To God the reflection of himself is evil, but to man this reflection is good, so long as he does not attempt to emulate God by reflecting his own personal Shekinah, Shin, W, or soul, on the chaos of human ignorance, that is on the unbalanced minds of those who surround him. In order to do so righteously, this chaos must first be stilled so that it may become a luminous mirror capable of reflecting the glory of the Shekinah in all its perfection. In the past, the diabolical error made even by some of the greatest masters and the most illumined adepts was that, when once they had reduced their consciousness to 0, and on the mirror thus created had received the reflection of the Shekinah, they attempted to reflect this reflection on the unpurified minds of their followers. The result was not illuminism but madness, not for them only, but for those intoxicated by them. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 41, plate 6, the mystery of Aleph, A, Aleph, B, the beginning of motion through opposition, C, the whirling forces of the zodiac, D, the female swastika, E, the male swastika. The 17 squares of the swastika refer to IAO, whose numerical value is 17. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah, page 42. In the first chapter of Genesis is depicted the fall of the Yetziratic deity through inversion due to reflection, the glory of this deity, that is the Shekinah within it, being the agent which renders the formation of a simulacrum possible. According to the Zohar, Metatron sets all his legions in motion by the power of a single letter Shin. Point 21 This was the spoken word Tetragrammaton, which created light, when the Yetziratic emanation moved upon the face of the waters, the luminous mirror, and proclaimed Yehi Or. Value 222, let there be light, illumination. In proclaiming it, the Shekinah, astral light, ether, or by whatever name the reader chooses to call it, emerged from out of the Yetziratic deity, leaving the 4 tetragrammatic letters of his name reflected upon the deep. These 4 letters represent what may be called the materiality of this deity, the elements of air, fire, water, and earth. In themselves they are not spiritual but are reflected upon spirit, the Shin by going forth from the Yetziratic deity rendering them visible. This transmutation of Tetragrammaton, or the despiritualized good Samuel, into matter is one of the profoundest mysteries of the Kabbalah, a mystery so secret that it is nowhere clearly explained. We are told that the name of Tetragrammaton is unpronounceable, and this in fact is so, for though YHVH can be pronounced as Yahweh, or Jehovah, this is not the true name of Tetragrammaton, for his name must contain the Shekinah as symbolized by the letter Shin. If this letter is placed in the center of the 4 letters of Tetragrammaton, we obtain YHSHVH, that is Ishva, Yaheshua, Jehoshua, Joshua, and Jesus, any one of which may be taken as the veritable name of the Yetziratic deity, the God, or genius of the world of formation. The chief of the angelic hosts is YHWVH, equals 326 equals 11 equals 5 plus 6 equals the microcosm and the macro COSM, and only when the Shekinah, W, flames forth does Tetragrammaton descend in the Merkabah, the chariot of magic, and become the great magician of the earthly world. To translate this involved symbolism in a simple way, God becomes manifest to our consciousness through the vibrations of light, life, love, etc., his spirit. This manifestation is nevertheless not God but the reflection of God on these vibrations, consequently, of necessity, it must be reversed and becomes dog. 22 The problem of free will. It is apparent that the center of this problem is the letter Shin, the most mysterious in the Hebrew alphabet. Its sound is like the hiss of a serpent, its appearance that of the open mouth of a snake, jaws and tongue, and its numerical value clearly shows its triadic nature. Further still, 300, its value, esoterically symbolizes the 300 Sephiroth of the 3 worlds which preceded the creation of the world of matter. Though as spiritual fire, or glory, it is the symbol of the Shekinah, the Sefer Yetzirah hints that it also represents transmutation and the devil. Point 23 Usually the 31st path of the tree of life is referred to it, and according to the 32 paths of wisdom, this path is called the perpetual intelligence. Because it rules the movement of the sun and the moon according to their constitution, and causes each to gravitate in its respective orb. 24 In other words, it is the equilibrating force in the world of action, Kether, Chokmah, and Binah, Christ and the 2 thieves on their crosses, the caduceus of Hermes, the solar disk and dual serpents of Egypt, and, according to Eliphaz Levi, the astral light between the horns of the Baphomet of Mendes, the pan-like Satan of the Templars. When erected is the rod of Aaron and the brazen serpent of Moses. See plate 7 on page 44. Its 3 teeth, or tongues, represent 3 Vaden and consequently may be translated into the number 666, the solar number and the number of the beast in the Apocalypse. According to the Cipher Dietzniutha, it is the serpent which runs with 370 leaps. 25 It leaps over mountains and hastily runs up over hills. The serpent holds its tail in its mouth with its teeth. It is perforated on both sides. When the perfect one or the archangel Metatron is raised up, the serpent is changed into 3 spirits. 26. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah page 43 plate 7, the brazen serpent. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah page 44 It is energy and the order within energy, the balance of the forces. Isaac Meyer writes the harmony is represented by the circle, by the serpent, an emblem of both Satan and wisdom, with its tail in its mouth. In the physical universe it is the luminiferous ether, the vital caloric, the electromagnetic azoth. It is the ambient fluid which penetrates, permeates, vitalizes all things, the ray detached from the glory of the sun, fixed by the weight of the atmosphere, and crystallized by the central attraction, to our earth. In the words of the erudite Yehuda Halevi, AD 1140, there is not any life without motion, nor motion without inspiration, no inspiration without struggle, no struggle without opposition. Oppositions are everywhere essential, but the divine power conciliates every opposition. Sefer Hoseri, Part 4, Para. 25, 27 Satan, as we call this power, call good and evil. Satan is therefore the Shekinah of Asaya, the world of action, the perpetual activity of the divine essence, the light which was created on the first day and which in the form of consciousness and intelligence can produce an overpowering brilliance equal to the intensest darkness. Satan is also the flaming sword which brought light from heaven. See Diagram 3. Diagram 3, the flaming sword. Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah page 45 The understanding of this power, whether in the physical, moral, or intellectual planes, is called science, and the misunderstanding of it is frequently called magic. As magician, Samuel is preeminently the poison god. There is more than one Samuel, says the Zohar, and they are not all equal, but this side of the serpent is accursed above all of them. 28 In man the will is the magician, when it tends towards evil it is called black, when towards good it is called white, but when it tends towards neither and in place harmonizes both, then it manifests not as the magician but as the Shekinah, the vital force as harmonizing agent, Hermes the messenger of God. The mystery of sex. The problem of sex, being a problem of duality, is closely connected in the Kabbalah with that of good and evil. It is looked upon as the great cosmological mystery, for marriage is the symbol of perfect harmony. As the Zohar says, the words, male and female he created them, make known the high dignity of man, the mystic doctrine of his creation. From this we learn that every figure which does not comprise male and female elements is not a true and proper figure. 29 And again, he who dies without leaving children will not enter within the curtain of heaven and will have no share in the other world, and his soul will not be admitted to the place where all souls are gathered, and his image will be cut off from there. Why? Because he has not succeeded in radiating light in this world by the means of the body. 30 The creation of life is man's divine prerogative, consequently the sex act is of all acts the holiest. According to the Nobleth Hakamah, the Kabbalists say that the entering into existence of the worlds happened through delight, in that An Sof rejoiced in itself and flashed and beamed from itself to itself, and from these intelligent movements and spiritual and divine scintillations, from the parts of its being to its being, which are called delight, its sources have spread themselves towards the outside, as seeds for the world. 31 Here is described to us the sublime orgasm of the An Sof, the creation through bliss. So also it is with man and woman, 0 That his left hand were under my head, and his right hand should embrace me, SS 2, 6. Then male and female are united, and there is mutual desire and worlds are blessed in upper and lower rejoice. 32 Then we are told that, the most perfect form of praising God is to unify the holy name in the fitting manner. 33 What is this? It is in such a manner that the complementary forces symbolized in it may manifest their creative powers. Thus in the name of YHVH we find two dualities, one between the Od and the He, father and mother, and the other between the Va and the He, son and daughter. Without the He the father is inconceivable and without the Od the mother is inconceivable. What is conceivable is always a relationship, not Od in itself nor He in itself, but Od He in conjunction. Od, be it remembered, has the numerical value of 10 and thus holds within itself the seed of the tree of life. The value of He being 5, this letter represents the microcosmic power which can bring the Sephirotic scheme into consciousness. Again, in order to realize the perfection of the unity of Od He it is necessary to establish a unity between Va and He. Here the Va, which is of the value 6, represents the consciousness of the macro-cosm and He the microcosmic power, not in God but in man. In the Zohar we find a complex account of these permutations, which is worth quoting. It reads as follows, Before Israel went into captivity, and while the Shekinah was still with them, God commanded Israel, Thou shalt not uncover thy mother's nakedness, Leviticus 18, 7, and this captivity is the uncovering of the nakedness of the Shekinah, as it is written, On account of your sins your mother has been put away, is 1, i.e. for the sin of Unchastity Israel has been sent into captivity and the Shekinah also, and this is the uncovering of the Shekinah. This Unchastity is Lilith, the mother of the mixed multitude. It is they who separate the two He's of the sacred name, and prevent the Va from entering between them, so it is written, The nakedness of a woman and her daughter thou shalt not uncover, referring to the upper and lower Shekinah. When the mixed multitude are between the one He and the other, the Holy One, blessed be He, cannot link them together, and consequently, the river becomes dry and parched, dry in the upper He and parched in the lower He, in order that the mixed multitude may not be nourished by the Va, which is the tree of life the Od extended. Therefore the Va does not link together the two He's when the mixed multitude is between them, and the letter Od is not able to draw near to the second He, thus the precept, Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law, is transgressed. Further, they separate the Od from the upper He, and so break the command, Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's wife, the Od being the father, the first He the mother, Va the son and the second He the daughter. Therefore it is ordained with regard to the upper He, Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's wife, the nakedness of thy sister the daughter of thy father, refers to the lower He, her son's daughter to her daughter's daughter, refers to the He and He which are the children of He, the nakedness of the father's brother, refers to the Od, which is the product of the letter Od, a brother to Va. In a word, when the mixed multitude are mingled with Israel, the letters of the name YHVH cannot be joined and linked together, but as soon as they are removed from the world, then it is said of the letters of God's name that, on that day the Lord shall be one and his name one, Zech 14, 9. 34 As in God above all things become a perfect unity, that is a perfect balance, so also in man below must a perfect unity be established, for all things are also to be found in man. To the Kabbalist the mystery of faith consists in the union of God with the female whom he fructifies, after the manner of the union of male and female. To the Christian this may seem a blasphemy, but remembering that in the Kabbalah the union of the sexes is looked upon as the sublimest act in life, to the Jews it is the reverse. Benediction does not abide save when male and female are together. 35 And even Moses the lawgiver of Israel was not considered perfect because he was separated from his wife. 36 God being a unity in the spiritual world, this oneness is manifested in the material world when the male is united to the female in a righteous purpose. 37 For it is through the union of bodies and souls that perfect unity is attained. So long as Jacob was unmarried, God did not manifest to him clearly. After marriage he arrived at the perfection which is above as distinguished from the perfection which is below, and God manifested to him clearly. 38 We thus see that the mystery of sex is but the mystery of good and evil looked at from another angle. And as in the first problem the separation of evil from good is the main cause of differentiation between Christian and Hebrew ethics, so is the looking upon the sex act as sinful in place of righteous the main cause of differentiation between Christian and Hebrew morality. As Christian Ginsburg writes, love and fear are designed to aid the soul in achieving her high destiny, when she shall no more look through the dark glass, but see face to face in the presence of the luminous mirror, by permeating all acts of page 47 obedience and divine worship.